Welcome to Mixed Mattaphors, spreading the good news of books, metal, and video games. Hold on, actually. And today is a fortuitous day. Fortuitous doesn't always mean good, but in this case, it is. It's very good. It's a fortuitous day because it's Odin's Game Day, and it's also my top 10 favorite video games. Okay, so number 10, Time Splitters 2 for PS2. Now, I haven't ever considered myself a shooter fan. Not that I don't like shooters, and you may see more on this list, but I just haven't really identified myself as a shooter fan in the way that I might have considered myself a fighting fan or a racing game fan, or a racing fan, or even a platformer one. However, I have had a lot of fun with these kinds of games, and Time Splitters 2 takes all the fun and wackiness and sort of the vibe, and even the music of GoldenEye, which I think the same team worked on who made the game, and which was everybody's favorite game on N64. There is a certain manic intensity to this game, and to play this game in multiplayer mode was so fun that even playing with bots as opponents, or with playing with bots as you also played with human players, on split screen back then no less, was a super blast. Whether you were running around with the baseball bat and hitting monkeys as someone else chased you with a rocket launcher, or playing the story mode which put you through various fun levels based on different time periods and places laid out like a GoldenEye level with the objectives and stuff, whether you were doing all of that, or you were, I don't know, shooting laser beams at a snowman, or, there were so many characters in Time Splitters 2, or there are so many characters in Time Splitters 2. The stages are fun. The music is it's pretty GoldenEye-esque, which is a good thing. It's sort of that kind of driving electronic music that's sort of understated and kind of like fun, like I don't know. It's really interesting music. It's just sort of fun music. It's just kind of like electronic beeps and bits and boops and bips. And it's just a lot of fun. Yeah, it's cool. It's very much like a party game, and a very cartoonish first-person shooter. And the shooter mechanics are good. The weapons are interesting, and it's a good variety of them. The levels are really good. In the sequel, Future Perfect, they actually had vehicles, and also they had a recharging health meter kind of thing, similar to Halo. And so for all of us who had a PlayStation and a GameCube but not an Xbox, you were sort of starving for anything even similar to Halo, like anything with that kind of regenerating life thing, which ended up being taken by all of the other first-person shooter games, or a lot of them. Like I'm playing BioShock. No, not BioShock. Oh, you know what? No, I was playing Grand Theft Auto 5 yesterday, and I realized the character's life bar just regenerated over time, and it was like that's probably pretty much right from Halo, or at least it's from Halo if you look back far enough. But Future Perfect was fun because you could drive like little vehicles around, and if it was all baseball bats and you were driving around like a vehicle on the ice, and you were chasing people who had just had baseball bats, or you were chasing someone who was in a vehicle with the baseball bat, like you were just no match for it because you're going much more slowly and you don't have much range with the weapon. And it was just a lot of fun. But Time Splitters 2, I think, it seems to me that if there's sort of a classic one of the two, it's probably Time Splitters 2, not Future Perfect. And it's just, Time Splitters 2, I think, is sort of the definitive game. Although if you were looking for more features, that are still in a good package. Future Perfect, also for the PlayStation 2, is really good. But yeah, I mean, it's a classic. It's awesome, and similar to like Zombies Ate My Neighbors, I think it's fairly well known as like a classic. I mean, I guess you could call it a cult classic to use sort of a normalized term for it, but it's it's well known enough, but it's not talked about all the time. But occasionally, like it'll be mentioned in a knowing way, or you'll see. Well, I think Zombies Ate My Neighbors more so. I think I saw that in an Angry Video Game Nerd video or something recently. Just a little clip of it. He wasn't playing the game for the video, like it wasn't the featured game, but. Yeah, it's a great game, and it's sort of a cult classic, and it's really good. It's like, it's GoldenEye, but wackier, so why not, Alright, so now, number 9 is Final Fantasy X. This game is the only Final Fantasy on this list, and it's just so good. I love this game, even though it is a little more on rails than most other earlier Final Fantasy titles. However, I'm not sure that's a big downgrade. It is disappointing, and was even back then, to not have a world map, and also to not have an airship that you could fly around the world map. Instead, you just sort of go... I think for most of the game, you just sort of like go directly to whatever next area you're going to, and then I think you do get the airship, and you can just like basically pick your areas from a menu, and then you're there. Like I don't think there's really an animation for flying there or anything. It's just the airship is essentially a menu of the places you've been to before, and or just places, and you can go there. However, without the world map and the airship, it still sort of has a fun kind of Final Fantasy style time after you power your character up enough, but you're not really going to the final stages of the game, and you can go and get the ultimate weapons, and they have some really good mini games like the lightning dodging thing for the ultimate weapons. I think I got all the maybe I got them all in that game. I think the lightning dodging one was to get Lulu's little stuffed animal or something, and was her name Lulu? That's the Metallica album anyway, but yeah, it's funny. I know it's the Metallica album more than I am sure that it is the Final Fantasy X character, but that's a really good game, and it's the lightning dodging is fun. You have to press X to dodge lightning. I think I beat that one. Then you have a chocobo racing game and like various things that you do to get the ultimate weapons. I think there's a chocobo racing one. Is there? I might be thinking of Final Fantasy VII. That's chocobo racing and breeding, isn't it? Or maybe this is chocobo breeding. It's a great game, and the story is just great. The music is awesome. Just the whole package just comes together so well. Like it's a really entertaining experience all the way through. I like the characters. I like the voice acting. It's probably one of the few games that I like. I think it was tearing up at the end. Especially, I won't say what happens, but with the last little cutscene, where let's just say some magicians have various tricks, such as pulling rabbits out of hats, or making somebody disappear, or cutting somebody in half in a rectangular prism, and you might understand what I'm referring to with one of the last, the final cutscene of the game. So it's a really good game, and really fun enemies, really great battle system, really, really fun and easy, but sort of really, a leveling up system that you can get involved with, or an ability raising system or stats. It's a sphere grid. It works really cool. It works really well. I'm not exactly sure how I got it, but I ended up getting a 1 MP thing, so I could double cast the most powerful spells for only 1 MP, which basically meant, like I think that's how I beat the game. I just like I used double cast and like Ultima or Holy or something with the 1 MP, and I destroyed. It was awesome. And it's a really cool game. The music is so good. The music is a big part of Final Fantasy games, I think. I played Final Fantasy VI on my Super Nintendo Classic. I played the whole game, I beat it, but most of the time I was playing it, I didn't really have the music up, like, at all. I guess I might have been playing it just with the TV sound off or low, because I had like a little apartment, and the sound carried, so I didn't want to bother people like playing the game. Or I was at my aunt and uncle's house for a little while before then, and I didn't want to bother them. I don't know if I started it while I was at their house, but anyway, I ended up, it was a very engaging thing, and it was fun to like level up and stuff in Final Fantasy VI. But I think without really getting into the music of it, I think it took a lot out of it, because I got to the end of the game and it was like, I'm not really attached to any of this. Like, I'm not really invested in these characters. Like, I wonder if the music had a lot to do with it. And, I mean, maybe not. Maybe it was me or something else. But with Final Fantasy X, I mean, I got invested in the characters. Yuna's a good character. Tidus is good. Waka, he's a fun character. Kamari's cool. Riku is attractive, and she's a cool character as well. Then Lulu is kind of awesome, and Oran, he's really cool. He's interesting. And is there anyone else? Jack is cool as kind of an antagonistic kind of character, or sort of a tertiary character. He's the father of Tidus, I think. And I think who else was in that? There wasn't a character named Sid, was there? Maybe that was all of them, but yeah, like, it's just some of the best locations. I'm thinking of the music right now, actually. Maybe that started turning into Pokemon, but it's just really great all the way through. Final Fantasy X is it's a rock star. Final Fantasy X is an incredible game, and I love it. So it is at my 9 spot. Now let's see what is next. Where's the... Oh, here we go. Next, Gran Turismo 6. This one I actually have a visual aid for. Now, Gran Turismo 6 is... Hold on. Now, Gran Turismo 6 is such a good racing game. I love this game so much. Like, if there is any Gran Turismo game, including what I've played of 7, actually, which I like 7, and it's cool. I've been playing it on the PS4, not the PS5, so I've heard that it's very similar. I think it might just be sort of graphics and load times, and the load times are pretty bad. Like, almost like hurting the quality of the game bad. Actually, like, almost kind of certainly, like, it does hurt the quality of the game. You're waiting for those loading times all the time. Like, just every loading time is so long in Gran Turismo 7 on the PS4. But it's also like, it feels like you're sort of wondering what to do, and like, it's sort of a weird mix of being too on rails and also wondering what the hell to do, and feeling like there are no rails and there is no quest in Gran Turismo 7. Whereas Gran Turismo 6 is just, people like criticized it, I guess, for being kind of generic, like, sort of the yearly upgrade to a sports game. NBA 2K15, NBA 2K16, maybe every once in a while they say like, oh, this is a really good one, but often enough it's like they didn't really change that much. But I mean, this is just 1,200 cars on 70 plus circuit layouts, which might mean it's more like 30 tracks, and you can just do them reversed and forward. I mean, I don't know, but 70 plus circuit layouts, good tracks, really good video mode too, like video replays. Something about the angles and the time it spends on the time it spends on the different shots in the video replay segments. It is really good, and I I love it. And it's very straightforward. You do the driving tests, you get your license, which really helped me because I still hadn't spent time enough or I still hadn't really worked to get better at Gran Turismo before this, and I had Gran Turismo 3 on the PS2 and Gran Turismo 4, but the license test really helped me out. For people who have played many games played many Gran Turismos and they played them sort of thoroughly, I imagine the license test might not be that fun here because it might be pretty repetitive, like you've already done all that. But, after the license tests, it's just very simple. It gives you the class whatever races, then the next class of them, then the next one, and you can buy different cars, and I don't know if I ever played to the end of I don't know how far I got in the game, rather, and I don't think I have played to the end of the game. Well, that means you don't know if you have or not, right? Well, I don't think I have, but I think I got to maybe I think I got at least to A class or something, maybe even S class, but it's very simple. You race, and then if you have a good race, if you have a race you want to watch a replay for, the replays are really entertaining them in themselves. It's like the perfect package. It's sort of like Walmart colors or something. It feels like the Walmart of Gran Turismo 6 in a good way. Basically everything you like about Gran Turismo, they packed it all in, and it's just this is sort of to me it's like the ultimate Gran Turismo game. I love this game so much. And it's really fun, and I can't say enough about how good Gran Turismo 6 is. So it's my number 8 pick, and I think this was the game I got more into driving or racing games with. All right, now let's do the next one, and the next game on the list is Call of Duty Black Ops 4. I also have a visual aid for this. Will I get it? Maybe not. I'm not feeling like getting up, but Call of Duty Black Ops 4. As I said, and you might say, Matt, sounds like you play a lot of shooters. As I said in the Time Splitters thing, I haven't really considered myself a fan of shooters, but Call of Duty Black Ops 4 was just such a fun game. Basically, I think there might have not been a single player mode. It might have just been the multiplayer, and the online multiplayer at that. But it had this battle royale mode, and that was sort of popular. That was the in thing back then, but it was so awesome. Maybe partly it was impressive to me because I hadn't really played Fortnite. I played a little of Fortnite, but I think it might have been after Call of Duty Black Ops 4 that I ever played it. And, I haven't played, really I haven't spent a lot of time with Battle Royale modes, even in that game, but, it was so much fun playing the Battle Royale. You, parachute out of a plane or something, and then you're on this huge map, and it's really very eerie and serene and cool when you're alone, but then, of course, there are people, all around. Nowadays, I went to play it somewhat recently, and it was there weren't that many people, and part of the fun of Battle Royale is that there are 99 other players or something, and so without a lot of other players, it's still cool. I'd love to just walk around that damn map. It's such a, part of it is how eerie and peaceful it is just hanging around when there aren't other players around, and sort of hiding or whatever, but I mean, it's so cool, and the gameplay is so fun, and there were pretty decent shooting maps, probably not the best maps I've ever played for shooting games or even Call of Duty games, maybe. I haven't played that much Call of Duty. I had Call of Duty 2 back before it became a big thing when it was on the Xbox 360. And I remember hearing it talked about in a review, like, well, this game it really, you feel the exhaustion of battle, and it just feels so realistic and stuff. And it was like, that's cool. And Call of Duty 2 was cool. And the single-player mode was actually like an attraction for Call of Duty 2, whereas with Black Ops 4, it was like, I'm not here to play single-player. And, you know, I probably would have looked down on myself saying that from years ago, but like the me from years ago probably would have said, you're not looking for a single-player mode, you're some kind of superficial gamer. But it's like, the fun of that was, you know, at least the way they've been making those games, you're not really looking for the single player. I imagine they could make a really good single player, because I remember Call of Duty 2 having a really good single player. But anyway, it's just, for the time that it was, and I don't know if I'd be able to recommend it now as much, because it's like, well, you know, it's, there aren't that many people playing it, although I think there still were people playing it as of like November 2023 when I checked, but it took a while to get a game going, and you know, it was still cool. Like, I still like the maps in that more than I like them in Vanguard, which I bought essentially to play a Call of Duty game online where it seemed like there'd probably be more people playing, and I got it 75% off at GameStop, so it was sort of the best of both worlds. You know, essentially they sold it at a steep markdown, I imagine, because with newer Call of Duty games either out or coming out, the old ones basically become almost like worthless, depending on if people still play them or not. And if they don't, generally, unless you know people who you want to play with, it's, you know, it's almost like the game isn't there anymore, really, without a player base. But you know, I mean, I played a little of the Vanguard story mode, and it was like, oh, it was just, it was kind of a cool setup, like walking down a train and stuff, but I think it felt a little woke, like, it felt a little like sort of the trendy, like, we're killing the Nazis kind of Inglorious, or, you know, sort of Inglorious Bastards kind of routine, like, you know, it's like, oh, wow, like, it just tired these days, like, oh, we're killing them dang Nazis, you know, it's like, okay, yeah, like, I mean, there's a certain way that you can play that where it seems really tired in a story, and this is that way, it is, but I don't know, it just, and it might have been better because this is also the PS4 version as opposed to, I suppose, a PS5 version of Vanguard. But yeah, Black Ops 4, just awesome visuals, really atmospheric. You know, I don't know if people really acknowledge how beautiful Call of Duty can be, walking around those maps. And, you know, Black Ops 4 was, you know, you had the Battle Royale with the huge map, or maps. I don't know if there was more than one, or if there were more than one for the Battle Royale mode. And then you had, you know, you had just regular multiplayer, and they were both, like, a lot of fun. And it was sort of like an inspiration thing rather than thinking about it thing to put this list together. So, you know, Call of Duty 4 came out above Time Splitters 2. I guess I would say it's just, you know, there's just a perfection to Call of Duty games in terms of the mechanics, or at least to some of them. And this one seemed like, it's sort of like the quintessential video shooter. Okay, so what game is next? Next game on my list at the number whatever spot, this is the number 7 spot, Call of Duty was 8, is Grand Theft Auto 5. Grand Theft Auto 5 is an incredible game. You know, obviously, the Grand Theft Auto games have been really good. You know, the mainline ones anyway. I haven't played much of 4, but I get the sense that they've all been pretty good since Grand Theft Auto 3, and including Grand Theft Auto 3. And this one is just, I've spent a lot of time playing this game and just driving around and sort of driving up on mountains and going off jumps, and I will say, criticism of Grand Theft Auto 5, it feels like the world is kind of empty. Like, with the other Grand Theft Auto games, like, there'd be, like, a secret dildo weapon in the police bathroom, or, like, there'd be these pickups and those pickups to find. And, like, it'd be fun exploring the map, because you'd find new pickups, or, like, you'd see, like, an exotic car or something in a certain part of the map. And in this game, it just sort of feels like the map is aesthetic only, and the aesthetic, or also like you can like drive around on it, and the elevation has something to do with how it works out. But a lot of it is just basically the visuals. But it is a visual marvel. It's a visual master. I mean, it's kind of a visual masterpiece going around this game. I mean, it's pretty good graphics for Grand Theft Auto. I'm talking about the PS4 version, not the PS. Oh no, I'm talking about the PS4 version, not the PS3 version. Although I have both, but I really like Grand Theft Auto 5, particularly just for driving around. The radio stations are not nearly as like memorable or iconic or even enjoyable, to the point where I like avoid the radio. In other Grand Theft Auto games, I would get cars just to listen to the radio. Like I'd literally, and I think many players might agree, I would literally like be listening to a song, and it would be so fun to drive around with it that if a car like got trashed, I'd go try to get in another car fast enough to keep hearing the song and driving. And or like it'd be fun to listen to the radio stations with the people talking or the little ads, and they were so much fun. Like you joke with your friends about them. And now it's just like the talking stations are kind of cool, but it feels kind of toxic. Like it sort of feels like the culture that America really turned into. And GTA 4 was before a lot of the really cranking into gear stuff, but it feels like it was kind of prescient. There are some good mockery things of the culture of it, but it the radio stations just generally, I think I generally have turned them off. Like, the rock station is kind of cool, I guess. I think there's, like, one station that I like, the rock station. I don't know, it seems like mostly, like, either really abrasive hip-hop, I like hip-hop, I like rap enough anyway. I was a huge rap fan. I mean, I have the A$AP Rock new CD right here. I freaking bought a rap CD that came out last month. But, although I haven't bought a lot of rap CDs recently, but, I like rap enough, but it's just like sort of the Danny Brown, like, just like really abrasive stuff. And like, I don't know if it's not bad. I don't know if it's not good music or like rap that's not good. Like, there's some, I think, stuff that is supposed to be good, like Freddie Gibbs and stuff, I think might be on there, and Danny Brown is supposed to be good, blah, 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 but it's just really, like, unpleasant, the whole radio station, and, so it's like, wow, like, but you still like driving around? Yeah, because there's something about playing this game and driving around in it where, like, it's just a lot of fun, and the first-person mode in particular. The first-person mode clinches it. There are so many things that I would criticize about this game. Also, the fact that I don't know if there are like ambulance missions or police missions, but like in some of those, like GTA 3 and San Andreas and the Vice City game, these like it was really fun. You'd go look for a taxi and do taxi missions, or you might do police missions sometimes. Rarely ambulance or fire truck missions, but it was fun to have them there. And it's just like, I don't know if there's a single one of those things in this. I think there might be the taxi mode. I don't even know if there's the fucking taxi mode in this game. And it's just like, there are so many things that made the older games fun that aren't here, but it's not like they'd be incompatible. I think they'd be great in this new game. Maybe it, sort of match them to fit a little more mature vibe of it, but it's a little more mature. It's a little more of an adult vibe. It's a little less cartoony, I guess. It's still jokey and cartoony and, stuff like that. It's Grand Theft Auto, but, there's so many things I'd criticize about it, but just driving around on those hills, and I can't wait. But particularly driving around in first person mode and your car flips and it's like flipping really fast in the air and you're just like spinning around and your camera's like going in circles and then bam and the car explodes and it says wasted. It's so fun. It is so fun to play that game and I've played it so much. And, it deserves a spot on this list, even though I'd criticize it for almost everything, really. Like, except for the fact that they've sort of perfected kind of the Grand Theft Auto system of gameplay. Like, it feels like it's been emptied out of so much personality and so many fun items and just so much fun activity that you could do around each of the places in the game. But what's there is the game itself and the graphics, and it really works well, and the first person mode particularly. Without the first person mode, it probably wouldn't have made it on the list at all. Probably, maybe San Andreas would have been on the list instead or something, But with the first person mode, here it is. It's the only one on the list. And by the way, I'm not making this list. I think it might have turned out this way, but this list does not have the rules of you can only have like one entry of a certain series. I see why people do that. Like, it's kind of fun to sort of say, like, well, which is my favorite? And also, it's kind of fun to have a bigger variety of games in a list. But to me, it's like, if you're saying this is your top 10, then, it's not really your top 10 if you're not going to include multiple games from a certain series, even if those games would have been included for an artificial reason. And, it's not that it's an artificial reason without any merit to it, but it still is an artificial constriction. Or it's a constriction on what your favorite games could be. And so, essentially, like, say Final Fantasy had 4 entries in your list, and now it's you only get 1 Final Fantasy for your list. It's like, all right, well, there are 3 more games that are on the list now that some of them might be... I guess, really, none of them should be above the Final Fantasy that would have been there because it should be the one that you like the most, one would imagine. But, like, essentially, your list is just, it's false if you're not including, I guess, like, you could say, well, this is my top 10 with these rules in mind, which I guess is what they are, but... Still, it's like, then it's not your top 10, it's your top 10 asterisk at the very least. And so... So, anyway, in the interest of honesty, that word is true, James True, the blueprints, oh wait, no. The blueprints of, oh, no, the technology of belief, not the blueprints of mind control. I haven't actually read the James True book. I think I might have put this here by accident. This should be Blueprints of Mind Control, because I haven't finished this book. Although it's beautifully written, what I've read of it. James True is awesome. James True is like the non-Libby Stephen Pressfield of writing. Like, more colorful Stephen Pressfield. Like Stephen Pressfield, if he sort of threw metaphors around with wild, reckless abandon. But okay, in the interest of honesty, though, and authenticity, because it's the stranger, and that's associated with existentialism, and authenticity is a concept associated with existentialism. Although I think specifically that was more of a Sartre thing than Camus thing. Camus, who wrote The Stranger, but nevertheless, he's the other really famous name when you think of existentialism. You might say, well, Nietzsche is famous, and you might think of him, and it's like, yeah, but he's famous, and then he's brought into existentialism, but Camus and Sartre are, like, they are known as existentialism guys, and Camus really isn't even known as an existentialist as much as an absurdist, right? So, is there any existentialist other than Sartre? Like, is there any other existentialist than Sartre? Like, you might say, oh, Dostoevsky. Yeah, he was around way before Sartre, and he wrote novels. You could pull him into the existentialism umbrella, but thinking of existentialism as something that was sort of uh, thought about more in the 1950s and stuff, sort of pulling stuff from before then into that bandwagon, it doesn't feel as iconic anyway. Like, is there any other iconic existentialist than Sartre or Sartre? But anyway, in the interest of honesty and authenticity, I am including multiple things from like a given series on this list if that was how I felt about it. You know, I will say actually though, authenticity in mind, like say I really got into Gran Turismo 3 and 4 as much as I got into 6, and I also still got into 6 after getting into those, or maybe I ended up getting into those after 6, and I do have both of those games actually now for my PS2. I bought them in the past few years with a PS2 that I bought in the past few years because on probation had to have monitoring software on my computer and internet capable devices that I used, which I had to pay for, by the way. The monitoring software, it's like $80 a month, like over $1,000 or almost 1,000 maybe a year, with the prices at the end of it anyway. They raised the prices this year, earlier this year, before the end of my probation. But you know, like really that kind of money for someone who's been like put in tatters reputationally, due in large part to what the government did, you know, like not to say the government's always wrong. Well, I mean, the government is always it is an immoral system, but you know, I'm not saying like essentially it's just like the government was very much sort of facilitating the situation where it's much more difficult for me to make money, and they I helped, but the government very much was a facilitator, and then they would charge me $80 a month towards the end of it anyway for monitoring software on my phone and computer. It's like that based on a rule that they're imposing. It's like, oh man. I mean, anyway, so I have a PS2, and I played that, and I played my Super NES Classic and both of the Sega Genesis Minis. I have both of them, but I don't have the NES Classic or whatever it's called. I'd like to get that, and I'd like, I think the NES Classic is probably the biggest one on my list. There was one that like is shaped like an arcade cabinet, or shaped like something where you can actually play it as the mini thing, but then when you put it on the TV, you can play it through the TV as well, like it's a console, but apparently the video quality is bad or something when it goes on the TV, or like something about it is apparently not good when it's on the TV, and it's like, oh shit, so I don't want to play like a mini thing, like, I guess you could say, well, you played Game Boy Advance, as you might hear about soon, you played Game Boy Advance, why not why not a little mini thing like that? It's like, I don't know if it's as comfortable to hold as the Game Boy Advance was, but anyway, interestingly enough, there are no games from the same series. There are no repeating series in this list. And I will say, to be honest, it's like, what about Time Splitters? Like, I really liked Future Perfect. If there was no Time Splitters 2, would I have put Future Perfect on this list in its place? It's like, should I not have put both of those games in a row? So maybe I'm still kind of doing that, even though I'm saying that there's not a rule against it, and I'm sort of actually commanding the opposite in the rule set as I'm talking about it for this list, which is, if it's honestly your list, then two games from the same series, if you liked them both a whole lot, then both of them should be on the list. And yet, would I want to put Guitar Hero 2 and Guitar Hero 3 on this list? By the way, I think Guitar Hero 2 really did belong on this list. It's not. Also, DDR, the orange-colored DDR game from PlayStation 2 era, that might have belonged on this list. Those were really fun, but nevertheless, as the perception of my honesty plummets in front of you, wouldn't it feel kind of like dull for me to do that? So maybe I'm standing on a high horse and I'm actually like kicking the high horse in the nads, to sort of use a James Rolfe kind of a thing to say. And then the high horse is, coming down, and I'm no longer on a high horse because, I sabotaged that high horse. And it wasn't a real horse, guys. It was just a figure of speech here. So, anyway, okay. Next game. Yeah, to do some more James Rolfe. Call of Duty was 10, 9, 8. Call of Duty was 7, actually. And GTA 5 was 6. That's funny. Call of Duty Black Ops 4 was 7. GTA 5 was 6. Gran Turismo 6 was 8. FF10 was 9. And Time Splitters 2 was 10. Which sounds less funny, but maybe because of the proximity of the numbers and that they weren't really that close to each other. But I've got to say, let me find this again. I've got to say, look at that list, and you'll see also, this is sort of interesting from the video games are or aren't art perspective. You'll see that it's a lot of sequels, and it's like, I think in like things that are more classically seen as works of art, sequels are seen as, they tend to be bad. And what do you know? In video games, sequels tend to be the best ones. Or, well, I guess maybe not always, but sequels tend to have more features. If a game works well and it's just like 3 games down the line, then that one's probably going to be the best because it has the best and most refined game mechanics and stuff. And it's like they've been working on a machine, a system, and they've made the system really efficient. And so it's like, how much of that is art and how much of that is craftsmanship that is more artifice and perhaps approaching something more like a game? Like, would you call the game of baseball art? Like, you might say, well, yeah, some games of baseball are art. And I'd say, no. Would you call the game itself, like the game of baseball, would you call that art? Would you put that into the category of art? Or would you put that into the category, just a different category, like games or something? Because maybe video games, maybe it's been in the name all along. Maybe video games really are more like games that are perfected. And I think, as Ebert said, video games can have art in them, but the medium cannot be art, because the medium is something that you're not. I think it was something about the passivity of your experiencing of it. So you're experiencing the work of art in front of you, and it's something that someone has made. And I think his argument breaks down a little, because I think he said like it's arranged in a certain way or something like that. And there are like choose your own adventure novels and stuff. And so those are like kind of verging on kind of more of a, not random, but more of a, like, an interaction based thing that would be maybe more game than art to Ebert. But, I'd say check out his essay about it. I think I might have read the whole essay. I think I read at least part of it. This might have been like 10 or more years ago. But reading that, or some of it anyway. Ebert, though, he makes a good point, and I think he made a good point. But yeah, it is interesting to see how many sequels are here. Okay, so now and it's like, all right, well, why did you put Gran Turismo 6, Matt? Why not Gran Turismo 2? And it's like, well, I think some people actually would say, like, well, Gran Turismo 2 is the best game, and maybe they have a lot of good points to make about that. But on a certain level, it's like it's just like you want to play a Gran Turismo with better graphics. You want to play a Gran Turismo with more cars and more stages and like just really more things that are have been refined over the years. Like, you kind of going back to Gran Turismo 2 would be sort of a downgrade probably. And it's like, is that as much art or is it more craftsmanship? And you might say, well, there are craftsmanship elements in like novels and stuff, like the writing of it, the grammar of it, blah blah blah. There may be an element of craftsmanship to that, rather than necessarily the art part or like artistic essence. Or I mean, the artistic essence is the thing, and grammar is a part of the thing, I suppose. So then again, you could say the whole game is the thing. So the thing is the thing, and the thing is art. Is it? But anyway, it does feel like more working with crafting like Minecraft, the craft element, than the element of artistry, or like inspiration, the contrivance more than the contemplations. Okay, so now here it. Okay, so I would like to say that next one, yeah, so next one is, these next few actually, I don't, or at least these next two, I don't know, I don't think I got very far in either of them. I think I got farther or further in this one than in the one after it, but, or, the one closer to one than it is in the list. But yeah, these next two games, I don't think I spent that much time with them, but they were, I'll tell you right now, they're both Game Boy Advance games, and they're sort of emblematic or sort of exemplary of the Game Boy Advance and its particular strengths as a console. Something about the Game Boy Advance, maybe something about its aesthetic. I recently was noticing, like maybe just yesterday, in terms of when I first noticed it, I think I recently realized the Wii has a cold aesthetic. It seems like when you look at footage of games from the Wii console, they feel cold. Whereas the GameCube had an aesthetic of just good graphics. I don't know exactly what it was, but something about playing the GameCube, I just remember all the graphics, or a lot of the graphics being really good. Like Resident Evil 4, and I mean, Resident Evil 4 was noted for having good graphics, but like that game and like some of the first party games, just something about it was like shining and just sort of perfect. I don't know, the aesthetic of the GameCube was incredible. The N64 had sort of like a janky aesthetic, similar to the PlayStation 1, but as people say, the PlayStation 1 had more of a jaggies aesthetic. But the janky aesthetic of N64, I would say is I would say that, yeah, the janky aesthetic of the N64 was more clunky. It was more like clumpy and sort of like dirty. And the PlayStation 1, I think, had more of a cold but kind of like just jagged and kind of like squiggly computer error kind of code aesthetic to it. And yeah, the Wii just has a very cold aesthetic, but I think the Game Boy Advance actually has a very warm, or like something about the aesthetic might just really do well for it. Like, I don't know, I'm interested in getting the Castlevania Advance Collection on the PlayStation 4. I wonder how it would look on the PS4. Like, I guess I could look at a preview of it from the PS Store and see, but I wonder how it would look, because something about the Game Boy Advance, it just felt very, very fireplace warmth. It. And, yeah. Yeah, something about the Game Boy Advance was awesome, and this first game, it's number, well, if we can even remember what I was saying, number, and that's not a dig on you, that's a dig on me. Okay. Number 5 is Castlevania Circle of the Moon. Now, I've been recently getting into Rondo of Blood on the PS4, and prior to that, I got into and beat the Castlevania game on the Super Nintendo, although I think I sort of cheated with save states, similarly to how I was beating the Sonic games on the Sega Genesis Mini. First one, I didn't beat Sonic CD yet, but Sonic CD is really interesting. It's sort of a different, like, play style. Like, you sort of, after a while, you sort of realize how to approach Sonic CD. I'm not even sure if I could explain it except or I'm not sure if it would be readily available, an explanation of it, as much as just to say, play it more slowly. Like, treat it more like an amusement park. Treat Sonic CD more like an amusement park full of just fun jumps and rides. Because it really is. It's like, there are just sections of Sonic CD where it's just like, like, literally, I think I remember, it might have been like sort of that game's casino level or something. I think I remember like this just field of those like bounce things, like boing, boing, the springs, and just a field of them. Just like a big section of the level was just bounce things. And it was like, I was playing around, and I think it might have been on that level that it was like, oh shit, I get the appeal of Sonic CD. I get why this game is so much fun, because it's sort of like playing Grand Theft Auto 5 and just driving around. It's like, you just bounce around for a while and have a good time just bouncing on these frickin' springs. But I've got to say, anyway, yeah, I've been getting more into Castlevania somewhat recently though. But back when near the time the game came out, I had Castlevania Circle of the Moon for the Game Boy Advance, and it's such a fun game. I mean, objectively, I don't know if I'd say it's better than the other ones on this list behind it, but like the ones I've read so far. But other than it, but then again, I mean, who knows? Because it was so much fun. It was like I merged with the game. I felt that way with a game that's not on this list, Metroid Fusion, and also with Advance Wars, which is not on this list. And I think other games as well. Something about like Game Boy Advance games. Maybe it was just having like graphics that relatively good and games that relatively powerful on that small of a console with like a nice screen. Like maybe it was just the portability. And so maybe if I got a Switch, I'd feel the same way about it, and I'd be like, "Oh my god, I love this," because something about holding the game in your hand, but it's like a legitimate big boy game, is amazing. But yeah, I mean, I think there was like sort of a leveling up system, or like maybe a trading card system, which was common enough back in those days. Check out some of the Final Fantasy games, really. Or there were in-game trading card games, but it was just Castlevania Circle of the Moon. It was awesome. Like it's a really cool game. I really enjoyed my time with Circle of the Moon, and yeah, it's a really good time. So who knows? Maybe it should be higher than the other games so far, because I just had that much fun playing it. The next game, number 4, is Golden Sun for the Game Boy Advance. I didn't play the sequel. I didn't get that far in Golden Sun. I think I probably played Castlevania Circle of the Moon more than Golden Sun, like for more time than it. And I think I probably also got farther in Castlevania Circle of the Moon and maybe was better at it and blah, blah, blah. But, like Golden Sun, I don't know if I was that good at RPGs back then, and so I think like Golden Sun just seemed like a big challenge, or like there were some puzzles in it that maybe it was just like, I didn't figure this out yet, and it's just like, I can't, what's the answer to this puzzle, But something about Golden Sun was really, really fun. Like the aesthetic was so good. I might compare it to Animal Crossing in that much of the experience is the aesthetic. And I remember the Golden Sun art style and the music and everything. The animation was just like the way it's all set up, the camera angles and the character designs and the types of enemies and stuff and the types of weapons and like the types of it sort of felt like more of a traditional kind of medieval, maybe kind of high fantasy kind of thing or fantasy style thing, just like sort of fun, like sort of traditional fantasy. It felt like good traditional good fantasy in a Game Boy Advance game, and it was so fun. It was so much fun. Okay, next up, number 3. If you know, you know, Super Monkey Ball. If you know, you know. Like the Pusha T song, the really good Pusha T song from an awesome album, Daytona, produced by Kanye West. 7 songs, I think, or like it's like less. It's not even like a half an hour long or something. And he released like 5 albums that summer, and or he worked with people on like 5 albums that summer and sort of released them as essentially like as him releasing them, but it was like a Pusha T album and it was like a Teyana Taylor album, but it was like Kanye West presents, and yet the way he did it that summer, it was like you were excited. Like if they called it Kanye West presents Teyana Taylor, Kanye West presents Pusha T, it would probably feel a lot more hokey and just more like blah. But anyway, like that Pusha T album was awesome. The Nas album was pretty good. The Kanye album was, there were some high parts. The first song has some like really gripping stuff. Like it's like people sort of waved it off as like, oh, it's Kanye being an asshole and stuff, but it's like really interesting stuff. Similar to let's have a toast for the assholes. Let's have a toast for the douchebags. In the song, I remember reading or like hearing somebody say like they sounded like mad about that, or like not like mad, but they were like sort of like mocking it, but like sort of like criticizing it or something. Like its song says, "Let's have a toast to the assholes." Seems kind of tame now, but anyway, Kanye West is just similar to that. He says like one of the lyrics are like, "I thought about killing you" or something, and that he's like, I think he's like, "I thought about killing myself, but then I don't care about you as much as I care about me," or something. It's a really like, it's fucked up. Like it's very dark. It's some of the darkest shit you would ever hear on a rap record, which is saying something. But it's like Mountain Goats dark. Like it's like there's rap dark where it's like really negative and violent and like very evil kind of stuff. And there's like metal dark, which I don't think it's quite as dark as rap dark. There's like metal dark, then there's rap dark, and then there's like Mountain Goats dark. And oh boy, I love Kanye. But anyway, Pusha T, if you know, you know. Super Monkey Ball. If. Okay, next one. You're not going to say anything about Super Monkey Ball? What is Super Monkey Ball? Okay, Super Monkey Ball is a game where you're a monkey in a ball, and you're rolling. Later I heard that you're actually tilting the stage, not rolling the monkey, but it sort of amounts to the same thing because you press forward and the monkey rolls forward. And I think I thought it was the monkey. I think I thought it was the monkey running in the little ball like a hamster wheel or something, and that's how he moved. But come to think of it, the way the stage sort of like goes crazily sometimes, I think that would have more to do with you tilting the stage. But you might say, well, Matt, duh, that sounds like an obvious phrase, but statement. Statement B is statement may. Tilts the stage and you fall off. I mean, that's Super Monkey Ball. Tilts the stage and you fall off. This monkey, he's going around a stage. It's like, it's sort of just, it's, sort of like just like grass, or just like a track that you're rolling on that's like suspended in the air. Like you don't see the ground, you're just suspended in the air. on this. I guess it's like an endless sky or something. I'm not sure. Maybe you do see the ground. If you, I guess you do, maybe. But you're rolling around, and as one of my friends said, when it, around the time it came out and he got it, and I think upon hearing about it from him, that's when I got it. But I think maybe even sight unseen. Or no, maybe we both got it independently, and then he was saying what he thought about it, and he said it was like the greatest arcade game ever, and it's just that's good. The greatest arcade game ever. It's so much fun. Maybe you could say Ghouls and Goblins or something is the greatest arcade game ever or something, or like the Simpsons arcade game just for the fun of playing as the Simpsons or whatever. But rolling this monkey around these stages, and there are like maybe 60 stages in the game altogether, but it's like the stages are 90 maybe. I don't know how many there are, but they get more and more difficult, and some of these stages are insanely hard, or at least they seemed that way back then. It's just like you're rolling around on a track in the air as a monkey in a ball, and you're collecting bananas along the way. I don't know if the bananas really do anything. Maybe you get extra lives from the bananas, which come in handy. But because there is a continue system, but you can run out of continues, and then I think you have to start from the beginning of whatever set of stages you picked, like beginner, advanced, and expert. I think it was, and you just collect the bananas and roll around the stages, or have the stages roll you around, like the stages tilt around and you roll down them and stuff or whatever. But it's just fun. There are like 4 monkeys to choose from, and the monkeys have interesting personalities. It's not like it's Mario or anything, but there's Ai. He's like sort of cheery, kind of Mickey Mousey kind of monkey character, the sort of neutral, like main character type. Then there's the girl monkey. Then there's, I think, like the big monkey and like the strong monkey or something. And then there's like maybe the littler monkey maybe or something. But some like the sound effects, the graphics, it was for the GameCube. And as I said, for some reason it seemed like the GameCube had the greatest graphics ever. Check out video footage of Star Wars Rogue Leader on GameCube. That was a launch title for the GameCube. Check out video footage of it. Tell me that's not those graphics. Like, tell me you wouldn't think those graphics were good whether it was on a GameCube or on a PlayStation 5. I mean, you might say, Matt, that's a stretch, but it seemed like the graphics were basically perfect on the GameCube. And it was just a lot of fun, and there were mini games that you could just play separate from the game. There was bowling, monkey golf, monkey target, and there may have monkey baseball. I think those might have been the 4, if there were 4. And the bowling was so much fun. It was sort of like the precursor to Wii bowling, or sort of Wii bowling was sort of similar to monkey bowling, where it was just you could play monkey bowling all day. You could play monkey bowling all day with your friends. Just take turns and play monkey bowling. You only even need one controller because it's only one person bowling at a time, or one monkey bowling at a time. And Darwin themes. Besides the point here, it's just monkey ball was so much fun. Monkey target was incredible. You'd the monkey would launch or skydive or something, and he would sort of glide down to a platform, and it's sort of trying to get a hole in one, trying to get a bullseye. You get to the inner platforms and they're tough to land on or something, and it was a lot of fun. Monkey golf was a lot of fun. I think I spent a little less time on that, but I think it was fun. I think it was sort of similar to Hot Shots Golf 3. It was one of those golf games where I actually spent a lot of time with it. Maybe just Hot Shots Golf 3, but that was a fun fucking game. But that could have been on this list, maybe. But, I mean, Monkey Golf, it was so much fun. Maybe it might have been almost as much fun as Hot Shots Golf 3, just as itself, as a minigame. And then, I think Monkey Baseball was less fun, but I think even that was fun. I think that was sort of perceived, or you got the impression it was okay, this is sort of the game they threw in. The other games are really well calibrated and just really awesome, and this one is just all right, it's Monkey Baseball, it was okay, but I think there was sort of an expertise that you could have with the other games. Like there was a depth to them. Like there was a challenge. It was sort of the easy to play, tough to master thing, and it was a lot of fun. And again, like I think without the mini games, the main mode might have felt a little slight for like a whole video game. But with the mini games and the main mode, it didn't feel like it was a super gigantic value packed monster, but it was perfect little package of a lot of good fun. Okay, now what is the next game? The next game is, by the way, my desktop background turns into sort of a nighttime scene at night. I took a screenshot, like, I guess at night or in the early morning hours, maybe. I think it was at work, like, tonight, like, after midnight, but before 1, maybe. And it's like this desert scene, but it's a desert scene at night. And so I was like, am I just is that my desktop? And it was like, well, no, that's not my desktop because it's not night out and the desktop is lit up now. It's like a more sunny desert scene. So it's cool. But, all right. Next one, we've got another super, and this one is probably more super. I think on many other lists, I might indeed have put this as my number 1 game, and I think probably more than maybe any other game ever, this one I have said was my favorite game of all time. Super Mario World. Super Mario World for the Super Nintendo. It's so good. I've played it so many times. I have it on the Super NES Classic. I think I might have beaten it multiple times just on the Super NES Classic. Maybe I've only beaten it once on that. I also I think I beat Yoshi's Island on that as well. Yoshi's Island's such a good game, but I mean, Super Mario World is just the ultimate platformer. Like, people say Super Mario Bros. 3 is better than Super Mario World. Looking at the footage, I played Super Mario Bros. 3 as part of the Super Mario All-Stars game that I had, it was the one that included Super Mario World as well, so it was just an insane value. But it had Super Mario Bros. 3, and I later found out it was the sort of the updated sort of remake of Super Mario Bros. 3, or not remake, but, well, I guess, yeah, a remastery kind of, a graphical update anyway. So it was like, oh, the graphics weren't as good on the NES, were they? But I played it on that, but I don't know if I think I might have gotten close to beating it, but I don't know if I ever did myself beat Super Mario Bros. 3 on the SNES, but what a good game. What a good. It's just, it's not that long of a game especially if you played it as many times as I have, it's not that long of a game, but like I've played it so many times that if I were to start speed running, that might be a game that I picked because, it's sort of a good speed running game anyway, with sort of the layout of it and everything. And it's not too long and, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, like it's not that long, but it's for what it has. I mean, it's long enough. It's got like a lot of good stages. Like maybe all of its stages are good. Maybe all of the stages are good. So many fun things. The power-ups are awesome. I think every power-up is like fun. You generally want the cape, but like I think every power-up is good. Is it just the cape and the fireballs actually, now that I think about it? In any case, the cape is so much fun, the fireballs are fun, the graphics are good, the game plays perfectly. It's just, the music is of course incredible. I recently saw on a YouTube video that, apparently, and I guess it is, the music in the game is all following one theme, and they just do the theme in different ways, like da 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 do 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 do, but or do 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 da na 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 Da, na, 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 do, do, do. You know, it's a good game. It's a great game, and it's just like similar to Sonic CD. Actually, it's just fun to move around in it. It's fun to bounce on the things. It's fun to bounce on the turtle shells, and you can bounce off them and bounce high. And if you get like the hang of the game, you can do some pretty acrobatic shit. And like then they have the special world with 8 stages that are like I guess they are the hardest stages in the game. And like back in the day, it was like, oh, I don't know if I can beat those stages. Like, I don't know if I could ever beat those. And nowadays, it's like, all right, you know, maybe it's partly just sort of cheesing it by wearing the cape and flying over as much of it as possible. But some of them, you know, I will say you can sort of cheese most, maybe not most of the game, but a lot of the game you can just sort of skip past with the cape if you know how to fly it like decently. But what a good game! Fun bosses, great final, dungeon with Bowser or final stage, separated, of course, into like 4 or 8 different stages. But like the special stages are sort of like similar to Sonic CD. The CD, they're kind of like 3D. They're kind of like amusement parks, and I think I'd like them to see a Mario game. I'd like them to make a 2D Mario game, or maybe a 3D Mario game, where it sort of is like an amusement park similar to those. I guess Mario 64 was kind of an amusement park type of game. Like, it was just sort of fun interacting with the stage and moving around and the tactile fun of it, to like not only how fun it was to play the game, but how fun it was to interact with the environment, and you know how there were things to do with it and stuff. Like, it's an amusement park game. But those were more. Some of the game is like that. The special stages are more like that. It would be interesting to have a whole Mario game that's like that. Maybe Mario Wonder is something like that, but it doesn't seem that way to me. But, you know, the Sonic CD, I guess, is sort of a whole game like that. And I actually, talking about it, I kind of want to go play it now. I should go get my Genesis Mini 2 wherever it is, and I think it might be back at my apartment actually now, but I'll go get it at some point. But anyway, the Genesis Mini 2 is great, and Super Mario World is supreme. And the final game on this list, my list, on this list, is Virtua Fighter 4 Evo. Or, as I think the title actually was, Virtua Fighter 4 Evolution. Although, Evo, yeah, I think maybe it was just sort of one of those things where people referred to it as Evo, and you're not quite sure where you got that from. Maybe it was from like a magazine or something. Back then, if you referred to something as something, like, it was more of a wonder, like, did I make that up? Like, did I hear that from somewhere? Like, nowadays, it's like, you know, there's so much online activity and so much interconnectedness that it's like, oh, well, almost every like phrase and wording seems to come about artificially and sort of get filtered in. But back then, it's like, maybe I just called it Virtua Fighter 4 Evo or VF4 Evo. But I think I might have seen that in like video game magazines or something. But what a good game. It's like the ultimate fighting game. It's way better than Virtua Fighter 5, which I finally recently got on PS4, and I realized Virtua Fighter 5 has like no single player mode. It has like the single player arcade mode where you like fight the 8 enemies or whatever, and I think that's it, other than training mode. I think that might literally be it, other than training, and I don't even know if there's local multiplayer. That might be the entire game other than playing online, and it's like, well, I don't know how many people are playing Virtua Fighter 5 online these days, and it's just like on the PS4 anyway, and it's just, there's a car alarm going off. I don't know if that's mine. It's just an incredible it's an incredible game. And, fuck. Hold on. And yeah, so, I mean, Virtua Fighter 5, it's similar to like a Call of Duty game, unfortunately enough as it is. Unfortunately enough to say, it's pretty similar to a Call of Duty game where it's like, oh, they either don't have a very, you know, haven't put maybe that much into the single player mode, or there's maybe literally no single player mode. Similar enough to a Gran Turismo Sport, I guess, to some extent. Although that got beefier as it went on. But yeah, and by the way, I think Gran Turismo Sport might be like ending like in the next like few days. Like literally, it might be. I think like it will be unplayable. Which there you go. Today is December 26th of 2023. There you go. That is the danger of games where it's like only online. It's like Virtua Fighter 5. If you're not playing against somebody online, then there's not that much to do. Whereas Virtua Fighter 4 Evo, it had really great characters. I don't know if Virtua Fighter 5 really added any characters that were like that much of an addition. Maybe maybe it did. I guess I should still play it more, but it had. I think it had a story mode. Maybe I don't think Virtua Fighter 5 has a story mode either. But anyway, this game had a story mode. Maybe it didn't have a story mode, but it did have an arcade mode where it wasn't just like you play against 8 enemies. It was sort of like you fight different enemies who are wearing different costumes because you can change your costume with like points or money that you get in the game from fighting or winning games or battles or whatever. You could change your costume and like put on like funny like flamboyant outfits for each character, and they were different for each character. And it was like part of the fun of the game was like dressing up your character basically, and like, do you want your character to wear a baseball hat backwards and like a scarf? You can do that or whatever it is, but it'll match with his or her aesthetic. It's like it'll be his clothes, but it'll be wacky, and it's just like. There was sort of a ranking system where you were like 5th Dan, 1st Dan. I don't know. I think 1st Dan might have been higher than 5th Dan, or maybe 5th Dan was higher than 1st Dan. But it's like, I think it might have been the other way around. But it was like sort of different words, and they were sort of, I guess, Japanese or kind of like martial arts words, or like I don't know if I knew or know what a Dan is. But it's like that was a rank name. Like, this is a Dan. Like, his name's not Dan. His name might be Dan, but it's the 4th Dan, or like the 5th level, or like the 7th certification, or I don't know. But anyway, anyway.